Greetings to our first three folks here joining this fine morning here on the West Coast for the Regen Network Twitter space. Good morning, Ed. Morning, Del. All right. And now I've got a few folks from the R&D team coming on over. And like always, these things pick up quite a bit of steam as the hour goes on. Looking forward to digging in. I was just watching this morning. We put out our marketplace press release across the wires. Nice seeing it show up across Yahoo and Bloomberg and places like that. So hopefully getting some attention on what the latest is with the marketplace and making sure people know it exists, getting above the noise. So much noise out there these days, kind of crazy. I know Gregory will be joining us this morning, I think, here shortly. I think Sarah will as well. Maybe while we're waiting for Gregory and crew, Ed, I'd love to, I know you've always got some great insight in the Regen ecosystem. Happy to pull you up if you have any recent shares of things that are moving for you. Or Del, if you have anything, holler.
Hi.
Welcome, Del.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Well, no, just I would just listen in to catch some news for the region report that I'm doing, the bi-weekly report on region updates. So I'm gonna just be listening, but wanted to say hi to everybody.
Yes, thank you. Staken does a great job at doing recaps of the Regen ecosystem, and certainly welcome more of that. We love community members, particularly those who are, whether you're a validator or participating in any of our partnerships or working groups, any things that you want to bring out into the community. We'd love that. It's always helpful to have additional voices as we decentralize our leadership in Regen Network. One of the things I did want to bring up, I forgot to mention earlier, is we do have Regen, adding Regen to the allow list that is up on Commonwealth. Or actually, pardon me, it's moved from Commonwealth and it's actually up on chain for vote. So that's, I know, something that community members have been discussing. For those of you not aware, we've already added euro, we've added USDC Grab, USDC Axelar. And these are so when people are purchasing carbon credits or ecological credits in the marketplace, that they are, have a selection of currencies to choose from. So obviously Regen was one that has been considered, is now up for vote. Be curious if anyone has strong feelings on the implications or excitement or concerns. This is always a good venue to discuss that, or you could also jump into Commonwealth and share your voice there. But definitely get out and vote. We have about a week, or actually a little under a week now, to cast that ballot. But anyhow, it looks like my colleague and friend Gregory is here. I'm assuming tuning in from the Maple Farm, I hope.
And tuning in live from the Maple Farm. Sorry to be a little late. I had removed Twitter from my phone to improve my quality of life yet again, and got stuck downloading it again.
No worries. We've just been here chit-chatting. I figured you were going to be dropping here shortly. Where are you tuning in from today? I know you've been on the road. I think you're in between SoCap, if I remember correctly, and you're headed to COP here shortly. So a little break with the family at home. How you doing? Are you feeling grounded, or are you still flying around?
Getting a much needed little break with the family. I'm grounded. I'm at home, enjoying a little bit of autumn here and a little time with the family. And probably will be headed to COP before long. I certainly will be in Lisbon starting next week for Breakpoint. Really excited. We'll be announcing some cool stuff happening between Regen and the Solana ecosystem, getting some of those city forest credits bridged over to Solana, which is exciting, and some cool NFT things happening. And there's going to be a refi DAO meetup that I'm sure people will be listening to. So if you're tuning in from Eurozone or Lisbon, it might be fun to hang. And then, yeah, COP is after that. And then after that, the one that I'm really excited about is actually Biodiversity COP, COP 15 up in Montreal. So it's, yeah. And I have to say, David, I'm a little traveled out. I don't really want to go anywhere. I just kind of want to, there's a lot of work to do. And yeah, it's exhausting being out on the road, but there, but it also, it's beautiful, and lots of interesting things happen. I have to say, COP, I've been really interested to go for a little while, and it just hasn't, the stars have not aligned so much, but it looks like this year they probably are aligning. So yeah, it should be interesting to just sort of see. I think most people who go to COP that I talk to kind of speak about both the excitement and the power of so many people coming together and talking about solutions and working through these complex issues, but also in a way, maybe the, I don't know, that it tends to be a little disheartening to see the political dysfunction getting in the way of coordinated climate action. So anyway, I'm looking forward to going and drawing my own opinion about all of that. So yeah, should be fun. And just before hopping on this call, I was having a follow-on to our amazing time together down in Colombia at the greenhouse event with the Chains with Benefits crew, or
nice, great.
The more geeky geeky name is the Interchain Carbon Interoperability Working Group, which just to share with folks here how freaking exciting it is. We have a collection of layer one protocols, leaders from layer one protocol foundations, including Ripple and Filecoin and Hedera and Solana and Celo and Regen representing Cosmos, and more coming and joining, I think, especially in this big push, who are all basically committing some significant resources, both money and developer attention and sort of like human capital, to making it possible for an eco credit, whether that be carbon or other forms of ecological assets, to move seamlessly between all of the different crypto ecosystems. So really just like putting crypto tribalism in the back and centering on this sort of singular unified challenge, which is how do we both accurately represent these ecological units? How do we create interoperability? How do we solve bridge problems? How do we solve data standards problems? How do we solve quality control problems in a way that is common across the entire Web3 space? That's long been a passion of Regen Network. So in a way, it's kind of a dream come true to really be getting that level of buy-in and support and engagement around this vision of, how that is actually going to happen. So, it's been, I guess, telling that story and just like sharing a little bit with the community that's happening, and how exciting that is that's happening, is maybe it's me talking myself back into thinking that traveling is worth it. because right, I don't think that any of this would be happening if we hadn't really got to build the human relationships and spend time together, talk through different challenges around that, and sort of transcend the initial sort of like hey, we're in our camp and you're in your camp, but instead to sort of like have an experience of like, oh, we're all in this together. There's something that's much bigger than any of our, companies or protocols or individual communities, and that's climate change. And in order to confront that, and in order to really having a meaningful impact, and to really sort of actualize the potential of Web3 and all of this, we're going to have to tangle with challenging problems of interoperability. And what's cool is I just sort of see the Web3 space, at least at the moment, with this current kernel being just embodying this meme of out collaborating the competition and kind of being the adults in the room, right? Because you see currently climate change and big corporates and governments, if there's one thing that is not happening in the best possible way, it's people sort of collaborating towards the greater good that everybody knows needs to happen. And instead kind of falling back into this like, well, I'm going to take care of my own little space and sort of, screw the consequences of that. We'll deal with that in the future. But right now I'm going to look after my own little, zone, even at the consequence of long-term health and the sort of the greater good. And, I have to say, I'm pretty, feeling pretty excited after hopping off that call, which obviously is another call of many. We've been having these conversations for a couple months now, and there's real momentum. So there's sort of like real hope that this sort of like digital public goods approach, the interoperability approach, and sort of banding together for this bigger common cause is really actually congealing into a movement. So pretty amped about that, Dave. I'm pretty excited.
Well, yeah, and, one thing that speaks to me, and I, after traveling around Colombia for a bit, and also, participating in a number of gatherings, is just, I think what I'm excited about with Regen, or at least starting to think about for next year, or even the following year, and is just how we gather and the art of gathering. And, so that when we do travel together, that we do have the design to create the design and the space to create the conditions that facilitate what you're talking about. And I think a lot of times, again, we are like, oh, we feel obligation to go to this conference or that conference, and then maybe we'll, chat out in the lobby of something. But more intentionally designed gatherings that, you're only going if you're there. In our case, like as with Greenhouse, was you're there to be discussing and showing up in all ways. Interoperability, at least, was on the focus there, which I just think fundamentally changed the way that everyone showed up. And maybe it was a little zeitgeist of time and moment, and just where we're at in life. But I think holding that spirit from a design gathering function moving forward, and and having connective tissue between events around that is something that certainly I look forward to helping support, through Regen and Loa Labs and whatnot, as we move forward into 2023, because I do think there's going to be no shortage of gathering opportunities, but I still get the same fatigue, particularly when I'm yelling at people over loud music, versus deep in conversation, and whiteboarding, and breaking bread, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think opportunities there that we should certainly be exploring with Regen, and also thinking of how Regen shows up next year, if and when we might start considering our own community gatherings, in addition to kind of packing on to other folks who are hosting. But that's a TBD. But I'm going to keep pushing for it on my end.
Totally. No, I mean, I totally agree, and I think it's share this observation of I mean, maybe we're just getting old, Dave, but the how exhausting it is to be shouting at people over loud music. Man, that's got to be one of my least favorite activities. I'm totally down to dance. but if I want to talk to people, I want to just be able to chill out and speak in a normal voice. So anyway, that's an interesting phenomena. For those of you who haven't experienced the norm at, at really conferences, maybe generally, but definitely crypto, it's a strange thing. I definitely, and I see this evolving, I see this changing, but the kind of the culture of, in order to like let loose and sort of like show your real self and bond, there needs to be loud music and alcohol involved. I'm looking forward to that kind of changing because
Or
it's just a little counterproductive. So to the extent that we can find other ways of, authentically connecting and getting through the sort of like, the fronts that are the barriers to really collaborating and building solid partnerships between and within orgs. Yeah.
so, Gregory, we're post market launch. We are pre COP. We have Regen 5.0 on the horizon. We have bridges on the horizon. New partnerships spinning up. What's lighting you up right now? What do you see? What kind of alpha can you share with our community today, or at least or provide some color to some significant movements that are moving around the Regen ecosystem?
Oh man, there's so much. I mean, first off, I'm super excited about all of those beautiful memos that people were writing as they were retiring those city forest credits that we launched the marketplace with. Just really awesome to see, and I think the ecosystem team has some cool little gifts and ideas about sort of engaging with that. So that's one thing I would call out. I'm really excited about some of the projects coming down the pipeline, and some of the things that are, some of the new eco credits that are going to be coming into the marketplace. I'm actually just checking. I see Giselle on. Maybe we could coax her up to talk about some of the projects and approaches that she's excited about. Maybe she could also give us a little bit of an update on the upgrade to version 1.0 that's underway for the for the Carbon Plus grasslands, which has been a big heavy lift and lots of hard work going on. So, and I'm excited for this next phase of work that we're doing at R&D in collaboration with the foundation. Now that the sort of like the beta minimum viable marketplace is live, to start fleshing out the functionality around the registry, the on-chain registry system, standards governance, the pathway for minting credits, and increasing the usability of all of that. Because that, at the end of the day, is what sets Regen apart and what we've spent so much time on. And so sort of bringing the user interfaces online around that and to a better degree, these governance tools, data management tools, all of this stuff, I think everybody at Regen Network Development is super excited to be having sort of like turned the bend, gotten that minimum viable marketplace live so that people can list credits and have that community-owned peer-to-peer marketplace infrastructure. But really understanding that's just the tip of the iceberg. And below the iceberg, that iceberg is floating on this enormous amount of scientific work, community engagement with land stewards, and sort of this concept of a community-owned, community-run, agile, creative, and also enormously high quality and sort of integrous, rigorous registry system, and leveraging Web3 for that. And I think that's what many of us are so excited about, and to sort of be turning the corner and spending more time in product calls and design calls, and thinking about that is pretty enlivening. So yeah, I'm pretty amped about it.
Awesome. Well, let's pick it up. I know, Giselle, I just want to flag that I invited you up in case you happen to be on your mobile phone. Love to hear from you. Christian, I see you out. Always good to see you. Ishmael, see you out there. Brian from Low Labs team. Let's pick up. Gregory, I'd love to, if you had any quick reflections on I want to kind of bring it back because there is something hot, right? That when you showed up, I was just finishing up a conversation around Regen token, and I know this was spun up by one of our community members as to be on the allow list. Just the state of our currencies. One of the things I'll just say I noticed, just coming back to the marketplace real quick is. Just some realistic barriers of the clunkiness of using, of the current user experience, I'd say, of engaging the marketplace with, the existing currencies that we've already brought into the marketplace, and certainly as, all of us used to a Amazon one-click experience, I know we have some distance there in Web3 generally, I'd say. So, just flagging that and just letting everyone know, yes, we see and hear you. Those of you who had struggles, some of you, it's been quite easy. From my perspective, it seemed like for at least Regen token holders, adding Regen to the allow list would make things pretty clean and easy to transact. But with potential implications that have been raised in Commonwealth. Did you have any kind of your own personal opinion of reflections on this? Or do you feel the need to withhold on this, or how are you landing?
Well, I'm happy to share a little bit, and then I'm excited to jam a little bit with Giselle. But sort of speaking, I'll sort of break up my comments into two pieces. One on the UX. I don't know. I found the UX to be incredibly smooth, right? But that's because I'm used to navigating in the Cosmos ecosystem. I think one thing that we probably could have done better at is really messaging and communicating, and we should be communicating. I try to do this, but maybe more broadly, we need to just continue to remind people that this beta version of the marketplace was built for the Cosmos ecosystem specifically, and so it does inherit a set of the user experience challenges of the Cosmos ecosystem, which I don't know that we can solve overnight. At Regen Network, it's like a bigger ecosystem-wide thing that we're working on in terms of multiple denoms and the complexity of how to do interchain, well. And there are definitely issues. If you were designing things simply based on UX, you wouldn't have gotten what our marketplace looks like or what Cosmos looks like. Let's be frank about that. But instead, the design principles we're working with are around sort of user sovereignty and community empowerment, which, in order to do those right, you make trade-offs. And some of those trade-offs are ease of use. So I have a lot of faith that we're going to continue to chip away at the usability. And I know that there's some significant energy now and partnership energy and also developer resources starting to turn towards getting us closer and closer to that one-click experience. And ultimately, that's what's going to be needed for the marketplace to really be serving a really broad community. But you sort of ship things and scope things as you can. And this first version, we're aiming for the infrastructure to maintain sort of peer-to-peer community ownership as the foundation of the marketplace. And the more that you work towards usability, the more that you need custodial solutions, and obviously fiat on and off ramps. All of that is important. We want all of that to exist, but just trying to do it in the right way that we kind of outlined in the white paper. So just quick reflections about the UX. And yes, as you said, David, we heard the pain from some people, although I also got a lot of, several people were just like, holy crap, this is super easy. And I think it really depends on like how much people are active users in the Cosmos ecosystem. Is just really like, that's,
Yeah,
as you
totally.
said,
I think
like
that's right.
Cosmos UX is a different thing from Ethereum UX, and both of those things are completely different from other ecosystems, and there's friction in transferring between different ecosystems. And then, of course, if this was your first time in Web3, it's going to feel horrible. But I have to say, even amazing. Like, I remember when I first started using Notion, and Notion's a pretty usable bit of software. It felt overwhelming to me. And I was like, I had this moment of stress, like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I've been a computer user basically my whole life. I know my way around things pretty well, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, anytime you sort of step into a new software, let alone one in which you're transferring assets, it can be a little bit of a clunky experience. So, then your other question there is around Regen on the allow list. I mean, it relates to usability, of course, but I'll just sort of say I am excited. I am excited about the potential of Regen expanding its utility to be used to buy and sell eco credits. I think it's cool. I think it's going to and I specifically think it's cool because I think it puts the ability for the Regen community of Regen holders, to, at a protocol level, potentially be getting, especially as we start to get forward contracts, which are some of the big features that we're shipping next. Little alpha leak there. Forward contracts coming soon. Wow, what if the community pool could be used to be purchasing forward contracts for new classes of eco credits to bring them into the market, and the community could be doing inventory and liquidity management with eco credits. That's really cool. So that's the thing that has me, I don't really foresee a lot of people wanting at the moment, because we have some missing components. Like, we don't have a good sort of real-time price oracle that could change. You could sort of like set the price to be stable in dollars, and then but receive Regen and have that sort of changing. At the moment, that functionality doesn't exist. So listing in Regen, which may be volatile, maybe isn't going to be the best user experience for like a land steward or project developer, but I do think that there are cool applications in sort of the bigger sense that this is going to unlock a lot of potential. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it could be a good thing. I'm interested to see what the community is going to choose. R&D Inc. is recusing itself from the vote. A community member brought that into the forum and sort of and also brought it up into a vote. So this is sort of a real decentralized conversation, right? Do we want to consider Regen a currency and put it on the allow list? And as I mentioned, I have some excitement about the potential that unlocks for the community at the protocol level to be using the community treasury for things aligned with our common mission. So that's one of the reasons I'm excited about it. Cool. Well, with that, I actually want to welcome Giselle up onto the stage. Welcome, Giselle. It's so great to have you up here.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Giselle Buman, I'm the head of science at Regen Network, and I live in Argentina, so from far away.
Yay! Is this your first time on Spaces with us for the News
I
Hour?
think it's the second one, maybe the second one. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I remember having a conversation. Well, thanks for hopping in. Yeah, excited, and we don't even both of us working in the same company at R&D Inc. I feel like I don't get to spend nearly enough time with you to sort of be caught up on all the things. So I'm selfishly really excited that I get to ask you some questions.
Yeah. And I'd be happy to kind of give everyone like an overview of what I'm doing and what's my role. And just very briefly for you to understand, I'm the head of science, as I said, and I'm more working on the supply side, where with the stakeholders that are more related to the land stewardship and all the project proponents. So it's more on the non-Web3 side of things, and I'm deeply working with the science team and the registry team in order to build the bridges and fill in the gaps of, the knowledge and all the information and resources that we need to build for onboarding all these amazing projects and all the good work that it's already been done on Earth. So it's more about not only expanding on the regenerative management practices adoption globally, but also onboarding what's already been taking place. And trying to help to solve and answer some questions that are fundamental for them to reduce uncertainties and risk so that they can make informed decisions.
Yeah, so some of the, there's multiple dimensions of your work that I think, it's sort of fundamental to what's happening at Regen Network, right? It's and for those of you who don't know this, Giselle was also one of the co-authors of the white paper. She's really, been with us the whole time, really a founding team member in a lot of ways. And so her thinking has been just foundational for everything that's happening. And one of the big pieces of heavy lifting that Giselle led was the creation of the Carbon Plus Grasslands methodology, which is sort of the first reference design for a regen native credit class. And I know you've been working a lot on upgrading Carbon Plus Grasslands from its beta version, which sort of was created, and then Microsoft purchased all of the initial vintage of credits into a 1.0 version. Would you mind just giving people a little bit of an overview of kind of like what the process of upgrading a methodology is like, and where we're at in that process?
Yes, sure. So, the Carbon Plus methodology was one of, a good kind of it was a full development from scratch of a methodology that it's cutting edge in many ways. So it's not a replicate of what was out there. Also, it's been written by scientists, so it's a little bit different to maybe what you can find from other registries. It's super directly targeted to the method and to quantify the error, to understand how to measure on the ground. And so what we are doing with that methodology is we are quantifying the soil organic carbon by relating ground truthing from soil samples with the satellite imagery from that particular moment when the sampling round is taking place. The methodology in its first version, which was written around 2019 and published in 2020, and it was validated by the first sale in Australia. That was all those credits that were issued was kind of the largest sale in Australia and globally in soil organic carbon. In grazing systems. So it was kind of validated by Microsoft, who bought a big amount because it was a very rigorous auditing that we went through. And also we created the methodology by having a lot of conversations with scientists. But the methodology never was going through kind of an official peer review process. So we outlined a peer review process for the methodology developers in Regen Network. And what we are doing now is we are going through a formal peer review, and we're going to be opening in the next month or two a period for public comment as well, so that we can first, as the same way we did with our methodology, test a little bit of the flavor of how is it to go through the peer review and refine anything that needs to be refined. We are doing that with a third party, so we are not carrying out the peer review ourselves. And I took the chance to take into consideration all of the kind of questions and concerns from all the different users of the methodology thus far. So this new version has, a better method that Ned Horning from my science team helped me to develop for the assessment of the error, for instance, which is using now the leave one in, one out, leave one out statistical method. We are also incorporating as a plan B the interpolation. So now deeper carbon, even if there's no a straight correlation with the satellites, can also be quantified. And those are the main changes. We are incorporating formally machine learning as an alternative to correlations or linear multiple regressions that we were carrying out to understand the relationship between on the ground and satellite information. We are incorporating ancillary variables, and the essence of the methodology remains. So there's an allowance for grouping, for instance, which is something that we are willing to move forward with future projects, grouping projects regionally, so that we reduce the cost of MRV, and is essentially trying to reduce the number of samples. For this version, we also generated a sample size calculator to really ease the work for the project proponents, so that with a little information about the area of the property and some characteristics related to the diversity of soils they have, the vegetation cover, the history of management. There's a simple set of questions that you might answer, and with that you categorize your property into low, medium, or high diversity for carbon. And with that and the size of the grazing areas in the property, you can estimate the number of samples, which is non-linear. So what this means is that the larger the property, the less number of samples you need in proportion, because we are using remote sensing. So again, it's a calibration of the satellites, and it needs a minimum information from the ground, but that information could be also distributed across different projects in the same area.
Cool. Well, so there's a lot there, and so first off, just to sort of reinforce and celebrate, wow, super exciting, the pioneering effort to from scratch build a new methodology for monitoring and measuring soil organic carbon, which is notoriously challenging, right? And I kind of want to center on, there's a lot there, but I want to go back and center on the peer review process. And I've been looking into, obviously we've done a fair amount of research and trying to understand how other registries do things. My current understanding of how, for instance, like Vera or Gold Standard work with listing methodologies is that they ask that there is peer-reviewed science behind the approach to the methodology, but the methodologies themselves, right, in their specific instantiation and their specific use, are not peer-reviewed. And so there's actually like something really radical taking place here, where we're saying there's this level of rigor that we're aiming for, in which sort of like the specifics of, really a concrete approach to measuring, in this case, soil organic carbon, and its ability to make a claim within the sort of the prescribed boundaries, that then relate to the credit class, right, around uncertainty and other things. That specifically is being peer reviewed. That's I mean, I think that that's really exciting. And, my hope is that that actually sort of becomes a norm. It's interesting to me that, there's lots of groups who are now doing carbon rating systems, but somehow this specific thing where you're sort of like holding up the bar of rigor in that way doesn't yet seem to have made its way into what people are considering when they're rating different credit systems, which is, I find confusing. But I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about, well, you outlined some of the specific upgrades that had happened. Some of that's quite, deep. It's sort of, there's upgrades to the statistical approaches, leave one in, leave one out, grouping, stratification. I'm curious if you can also comment a little bit about, I believe that there's been some significant upgrades with the inclusion of machine learning as a tool that's available for people using this methodology. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So, not only, so we have been also, the methodology as it was written originally, it was not excluding machine learning, but there's now a more explicit approach, I would say. And we generated, Ned did a really great job at writing a Jupyter notebook, with, so there you have the capacity to run from beginning to end all the statistical analysis in Google Earth Engine, by analyzing a full stack of a whole time series from, let's say, 4 months before and after the sampling moment. So with that, you can get all the statistical information related to the error and for instance, the square R of the correlations. And you can check if there's a high correlation or multiple regression at certain moment in time. And furthermore, you can run machine learning in order to increase the accuracy. If our first choice, it's always the multiple regression, because it's simpler, and the simpler the better. So if you already find a good correlation from scratch, that would be the option. But if not, there's always a way to improve by using auxiliary data from other regional or global layers of information and local information, and that coupled with all the time series of the satellites and the different bands of the Sentinel-2, which is the satellites that we are mostly using because of their frequency, high accuracy, high resolutions in terms of space and bands. They have a lot of bands, so you can really dig into the infrared, or things that are not maybe gathered from other satellites in such a big resolution, in terms of variables that correlate to wetness or greenness of the vegetation. So there's always a way to improve everything with machine learning, and we are currently using random forest with great success, but it's not limited to only that one. You can use any machine learning algorithm.
Cool. That's really exciting. And, I remember in some of our conversations with the Google Earth Engine team, I was kind of socializing this idea, which I would sort of say, from my perspective, is kind of the holy grail of where we're trying to go with this sort of process of eco-crediting, where we're achieving an output that is in which the methodology and the output of the application of the methodology is on chain, on a blockchain, is machine readable, and included in that machine readable output are specific digital signatures for every step of the process that one went through in order to generate the output, which creates a scientifically replicable claim. Right, where
exactly.
You can go, where people can go back and they can say, okay, like I can reassemble the data from a raw form. I can perform the all of the different masks or analysis tools. I can rerun it, and I will get the same output. And so from
Exactly.
yeah, and that's
Yeah, and
enormously exciting. So how close are we really? Like, and like this is, I know this is going to sort of stretch the boundary and reveal some of the, reveal to the community the really, and that's what this news hour is all about, revealing to the community like the living edge of where we're at in building all of this. There's been this
yeah.
constant process of how do we now, we've done this deep, powerful research and development on the science side. We've done this deep, powerful research and development on the blockchain side. How close are we right now? What are the conversations that you're having with Ryan, for instance, or Corey about how to leverage the data module and the eco-credit module in order to create this sort of claim replicability inside of an eco-credit? Where are we at there? How close are we?
Well, that's a great question. I think we are a little bit early on, but at the same time, we are starting to have good conversations around that, which is essential. There's there's a big conversation behind this, which is we're always thinking about the blockchain as a tool for increasing the transparency and the replicability, or also linked to this conception of having everything open source and everything that could be public must be public. So in terms of data, in order to replicate any methodology, you need to have all the information there. So at this current moment, what we have is metadata associated with everything that goes on chain, so that, for instance, all the Carbon Plus credits that are on chain have the metadata with all the information. For instance, in reports or PDF, so you can essentially go there and run the Jupyter notebook and get information about what images were used and what's the data from the ground, from the laboratories. Everything is out there, so you can run it. Then it depends for all the methodologies that are going to be coming to us, because we are replicating the effort with a lot of methodology developers. It really depends on each credit class and each methodology, how prescribed they are, to kind of make information public from the reports and what is going to be out there. But we are highly advocating what we are seeing from the voluntary carbon markets is a shift towards an increased demand for high quality and for transparency. And with that in mind, what I think, and again, this is a scientist point of view from the finance side of things, but so keep that in mind. But what we are saying is that the highest value or the highest market value for credits is going to be linked to the availability of information, transparency, and replicability from the verification of the claims. So any credit that comes from a methodology that is transparent in terms of how things are being measured, and there are transparent reports showing how it was done and allowing for replicability, that will have a higher score. And there are other things like co-benefits that increase the value, etc. So with that in mind, whatever we can do to make that information machine readable, so that either curators can find or get access through APIs, for instance, or the buyers could do some assessments, filtering information, and really understanding how the information was generated and what's the accuracy of the information, and we can identify the main features that are related to the high quality of the method and the claims. That would be the next step. How we provide with metadata that it's not only a report or a PDF or something that people need to go and dig in, but also something that it's machine readable. So there are the conversations happening, and that's where we are moving towards, I believe.
Awesome. Yeah, super, super exciting. And I think, just to sort of add a little bit of color there, and then, maybe we'll open it up to audience, if people want to hop up, I see several people actually who are methodology developers or data scientists in the audience. Always a testament to how cool our community is. So people feel free to raise your hand or request to be brought up. Gmo, I see you out there. Justin, I see you out there. So if you'd like to just jam with Giselle a little bit, feel free. One of the things that is challenging is so we have this theory in which we understand that both what is right and what we believe that market forces are going to drive towards is an increase in transparency around these public goods claims, like a carbon credit. And at the same time, there's oftentimes shorter term economic forces in which people don't want to reveal key pieces of data. Whether that is sort of a proprietary machine learning algorithm that is being used or a private data source, like, using, like a Planet Labs data, satellite data, for instance, in which the provider of that information may not want to make it freely accessible because they have a business model that's based around people, paying for that information because, they had to pay a bunch of money to, launch those satellites into space, right? And they need to recoup those expenses, for instance. So I think one of the, starting with metadata, right, in which there's hashes of things and you may actually need a permission to access the underlying data. What that does make possible is for certain parties to be able to fully replicate the claim and then, amend to the credit in question, the results of their audit. Now, I happened, so I think at the moment that's sort of like where we've landed is essentially sort of like a permissioned zero knowledge proof system, where people can rerun all the hashes and it all adds up, or certain people can get in and, have the private keys necessary to sort of like reveal the data and fully rerun everything, every step of the process. My sense of things is that is where the market is ready to be at the moment, because there are enough different parties, sometimes even the land stewards or farmers themselves, who don't want to reveal, for instance, where their farm is, right, as a publicly exposed bit of data. So just to add a little bit of color there from the sort of like the cryptography side of the question. So there's like, on one hand, there's sort of like the ideal that we're shooting to aim for in terms of transparency and science and openness and decentralization. On the other hand, there's sort of the realities of the needs for privacy in the current world and the current marketplace, and the balance that has been struck there, and it relates to how we've approached the data module and sort of our work to create that kind of like zero knowledge verification process that's available. Let me just invite Gmo up here. Hey, man, welcome up. Do you have a question or comment you want to sort of chime in?
Hey, yeah, no, there's a delay between what I hear in the audience level and then when I'm brought up here. So I think it skipped like 10 or 15 seconds. So I didn't leave. I lost like the second half of a really cool dialogue. But yeah, I think claim resolution is really important right now. I was wondering, like, if you could unpack that a little bit further. I'm not fully acquainted with the data module, but I'm wondering if this is like if in Regen Network, if this is already built as a sort of a blockchain specific application already, or if things are still in the pipeline. And just one quick thing also is, automating all of this is really important, making it machine readable as well. But there's so much work still left for humans to do, right? Whether it's tree planting or agroforestry stewardship, there's still so much raw custom data that is needed. For example, we have over 50,000 unique tree species, and all of those have best practices and unique characteristics. So it's really quite a bit of complexity that we have to navigate through before a lot of this is is fully automated or sort of AI augmented. But I love what you guys are working on.
For sure. And I don't know that our vision is to sort of like create a fully automated sort of like ecological state monitoring machine necessarily, but to just sort of be using the best possible tools to lower the cost of specific actors to audit each other's claims. And in order to achieve that, you really do sort of need to use a machine readable format like JSON LD instead of just having it being in a PDF or whatever. So just just to sort of clarify, our aim isn't kind of like a sort of a strange singularity and AI vision here, but more practically just, making it easy and low cost for stakeholders to be checking up on the foundation of claims. Related to your question there around the data module, so I can do a decent explanation of that, and then I think probably I'm just wishing I could channel Ryan, who's not here, to really give you a deeper technical overview. But in essence, the Regen data module is a native blockchain feature on Regen Ledger that allows for the signing and anchoring of data. It is using the RDF format, and sort of essentially things are coming as JSON LD objects up onto the blockchain. And again, those are signatures, like someone signing a data package and saying, I attest to the veracity of this, and anchoring. And so at the moment, the data module is not about putting arbitrary data on chain, right? It's about putting pointers on chain back to data storage. And we're in deep collaboration and process with Filecoin to unlock their CO2 storage system and give people that option. It also is natively can be integrated with just IPFS, so people can store things in IPFS, and also people can store things in their own databases, right? And so we sort of have an open-ended approach to the data storage underpinning the claims at the moment. I think also Regen Registry, I think we also have a database that people can utilize, that R&D maintains, in the case that that's helpful. So hopefully that kind of answers your question on the data module front. There's pretty good docs around the data module, so you can like check it out, and we sort of welcome feedback around that. Well, I'm just noticing we're bumping up against the top of the hour here. It is it's 12 p.m. here on the East Coast, here at the Maple Farm in Massachusetts, where I'm calling in from. So that means other time to call the news hour ended. And just express my gratitude. Giselle, thanks so much for taking a little time out of your day to come and share about your role, about the work that you've been doing on the Carbon Plus grasslands. And super grateful for all of your amazing work on all of this. And Dave, thanks for co-hosting and helping spin this up. And thanks for the great question, Dimo. And thanks to everybody out in the audience for tuning in to another Regenerati News Hour. And look forward to seeing you all next week. For updates on the living edge of Regen Network and just where things are at in this emerging movement, and on our specific protocol and platform. And by the way, marketplace. Woohoo! Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Regenerati. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Giselle. Good to see you. Thank you, everybody. And just a reminder, we do record these, and they do go up on our YouTube channel in case you feel like you missed something you did not. So go to Regen Network YouTube, and you'll be able to catch all kinds of interesting recordings of these, as well as other Regen recorded events. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. Have a great day. Bye-bye.